Welcome to the Infinite Prosperity Podcast. I'm your host, Louisa Havers, and I help high-level entrepreneurs and leaders unlock the codes of sustainable success through energetic mastery, wealth consciousness, and aligned strategy. Here, we go beyond mindset. We go into the quantum, the subconscious, the soul, the energetics, so that you can create a business and life that's prosperous, powerful, deeply fulfilling, and create the legacy that you came here to make. If you're ready to expand into your next level with more ease, alignment, and flow, then I would love to invite you to our free energetics experience, The Energetic Edge. This is where we dive into the hidden energetic patterns that hold high achievers back and activate the frequency that's required to go beyond your current ceiling. You can join us at louisahavers.com/energetics, and we'll pop the link in the show notes for you as well. Alrighty, now let's dive into today's episode. A huge welcome. Welcome back, everybody. I'm here with the incredible Andrea Donnelly, who is a spiritual advisor, intuitive mentor, and the creator of Future Medicine Healing Modality. Cannot wait to hear all the things. Andrea, welcome.
Thank you so much, Louisa. Thank you for having me. Thank you to everyone listening. There's nothing I love more than like sharing my message and story and talking with people like you of good hearts and minds. So I'm very, very honored to be here.
Oh, I'm delighted to have you with us. It's been a while. I was trying to get this in the diary, so it's going to be very, very special. And before we dive into it all, I would love to hear, can you share a little bit about your journey, how you came to do the work that you're doing now? That would be fantastic.
From the time I was little, like from the time I have memories as a baby, I was always very different from other people. I always had a connection, we'll say, to like creator, the divine, just like this very grandiose way. But there were always things that I feel like I was born in a lot of ways remembering things that other people had forgotten about, like the ultimate truth. So I always knew that ultimately the thing for me was going to be that one day I would create my own business, because I also never really thrived in many ways in the like normal world. Certainly being an entrepreneur is, a very intense journey of its own. I'm not saying that it's, that you're going to necessarily become an entrepreneur and everything will be easy. It's beautiful and challenging and rewarding and so many different things happening simultaneously. But I always knew that ultimately my end game was going to be to start a business and that it would integrate the things that to me were so important: the restoration of creative vision, energetic work. I had previously suffered from disabling chronic nerve pain that lasted off and on for about 15 years. And that was a wild journey. And I remember the first time I got into, I was in a number of different car accidents, and there were other things that affected it too. But ultimately, I remember the first time I was badly injured, knowing in this way that I feel like, you know exactly what I'm talking about, where I knew unequivocally that I not only could heal myself, but that I was supposed to essentially crack that code of how to do it and then ultimately share that wisdom with other people. Not that I think that we heal other people, but that like we each have this capacity. And because of, we'll say, conditions of Earth, the complexity of the energetic matrix and the misinformation that's, flowing from so many different angles, that those creator powers that each of us possesses have been suppressed, and that I was meant to really help people reweave that soul wisdom, that spiritual intelligence, and these innate gifts that we have to both heal ourselves and also restore stewardship, reweave justice. Like there's so many different things that happen once you ignite those powers again and you clear the noise, as it were, that makes it hard for us to rise into these abilities. So that's the sort of walnut shell version of a long journey. But I was basically called, I think, by my own soul to create a modality that did that restored those things and was operating at the highest frequency possible, because there are of course a lot of healing modalities around the world, but I think that for anyone like me, like you, people who are really called to like hone our own skills and share our unique lens of perception, and these will, and which I could also like sub in for like truth, right? Like just ultimate truth, that there's nothing, you can't fight the calling, right? Like I have always, from the time I was very small, knew that I was born to do something to help a lot of people. And it just like, you, if you have that draw, nothing that happens will ever, be able to essentially turn your focus. It might take time and all the things, but at the end of the day, like, this was just always the thing that I knew would be the thing for me.
There's a lot there in your journey, and I just wanted to pick out that point of, well, what was the turning point for you that led you to creating the future medicine modality?
I think the so I I went through like my own really powerful healing journey. And while
Mm.
I was doing, essentially healing myself of this previously disabling nerve pain, I was also honing my skills with other people. So I was working with people through trade mostly. Like, I had a couple of
Mm.
people who over the years I did long-term multi-year trades with them where I would do energy healing for them. And it actually turned out that two of the people that I did this with were both farmers, and we all felt like we were getting the better end of the deal, right? Isn't that like the best way to do a trade, is when everyone feels like they're the one who's like ultra winning? So I would get, weekly CSA shares, fresh fruit, um, flowers, and, just vegetables and so much beauty in exchange for me being able to see, because I'm so woo-woo, but I'm also very like logical. And I have a degree from a very academic college in the United States. Like, there's a part of me that's like really like sort of comically in opposite, I think it's a compliment, but one could view it as an opposition to the way that I'm also like so ultra woo-woo and mystical and magical. So I like a lot of evidence, right? Even if it's just
Mm.
quote unquote anecdotal, but to be able to see the way people changed over the years. So anyway, the real turning point for me in terms of when I was like, I'm ready. All right,
Yes.
it's the moment. I literally, around the time that I met you, in 2020, in the early spring of 2020, I woke up one day, I think it was March 13th of 2020, and I literally sat up in bed, Louisa, and I was like, the wind has changed. The
Oh,
planet is
wow.
ready. Oh, I have chills as I'm even saying it. And I could like feel that the thing that I had been called to do, that it was time. Like, I just
Mhm.
knew that it was time for me to figure it out. And at the time, from an optics perspective, it did not look like I was someone who was ready to embark on the journey of entrepreneurship, because I actually had at the time an active application pending for long-term disability. And I also knew that I wasn't going to need it, and that what the real answer, and that ruffled a lot of feathers, because people that loved me felt like I was making there was a lot of sort of chitter chatter from the gallery around me of people who really questioned what I had chosen to do. But ultimately, I knew that the answer was within me, and that there was nothing external, and that it was time for me to start sharing this wisdom that I had with other people. And it's been such a wild, beautiful journey to be able to now be like sharing this with people around the world and seeing the results over and over again. It's like just an absolute gift for me to be able to, you know, be out there basically peddling miracles.
I
So,
love that, peddling
yeah.
miracles. People think, yes, please, I need a miracle. I need a
Yeah.
miracle.
Don't we all? Don't we all?
Absolutely. I always say to my clients, one of my favorite affirmations, if you like, to imprint is I believe in the miraculous. And we were talking about I believe in the miraculous for me. So often we can say I believe in the miraculous, but are we really believing that it's going to happen for us?
Yeah.
Are we thinking
Yeah.
actually it's outside of us? I believe in the miraculous, but for someone else. That came through in one of our
Yeah.
calls, and it's so interesting, isn't
Yeah.
it? How we can say all these things. Yes, I believe in miracles,
Mhm.
but do we really believe that? Yes, for me, as well as everybody else.
Right. Right. Exactly. And that is such a, and I feel like that disconnect is, so we're really being called to like integrate the reality, which is that from my perspective, miracles flow through us. Like it's our default state, and we're on this planet that is an ultra clown world, right? Which is no fault. The earth is beautiful. The elements are beautiful. The animals, the plants hold so much wisdom and power and beauty. And then there are these ways where, you know, the systems that exist on this planet have really manipulated things and harnessed energy and shifted stuff in a direction that is not the vibe, and has, I think, basically created a veil of amnesia, right? So we don't even, there's so many people walking around who don't even realize that, the miraculous is actually the truth. And then it's like, we're getting bogged down by what I call like an energetic bag of rocks, right? That's like coming from this direction and this direction. And in some ways, I always feel strangely inspired by the amount of time and work, they have to put into suppressing our gifts, because it makes me really believe that what I think is the truth, because otherwise, why would they need to come at us from a million angles to make us forget, right? Like
Yeah.
they wouldn't need to if it wasn't true.
I love this so much, and I think this aspect of all the themes that we've started to see have been really ramping up in terms of you've got people becoming more aware of their gifts and recognizing that actually that they can. I love what you said about the miraculous being the default set point and that we've forgotten. It's like, yes, how can more people start to remember? And there's so many of us out there, spiritual leaders, being able to contribute in our way to people's journey. It's a privilege and an honor to be able to do so. I would love to hear, as you were talking about this aspect, what you're seeing in relation to some of the themes that are coming up in terms of, this year, as we think about what are you seeing? I know you've tuned into the major themes for 2025. What sort of things have you been seeing? And what do we need to do to prepare for them?
Yeah, I love that question. And I know so many of the people in your audience are entrepreneurs. So this feels like such a like perfect thing to be tuning into as we navigate what's
Yeah.
happening and what's coming. The big things that I'm seeing are a massive call to cultivate creativity and creative vision. And it links back into that power of the miraculous. To me, we each have we'll call it like a cosmic creativity that is like part of our divine vision on our site, and whatever it is that we came here to really contribute to this like stewardship reseeding of justice and beauty and love that we're witnessing right now. And so cultivating that, really finding new ways, like wherever you are in your journey, however much success you've experienced in this world, it feels like now is the time to get weird, as it were, with the vision and say, okay, how have I been holding back? I've always been very interested in etymology and the origin of things. And because I was always very different, as I mentioned at the beginning, from other people, people always called me very weird from the time I was a child. And at some point I was like, there's something to this. What does that word actually mean? Because when people would say it to me, I think, we can sort of have this like knee jerk reaction potentially and be like, oh, people are judging me. But it
Mm,
always felt more that it wasn't so much that I felt like people were judging me. I feel like it was almost like incredulity of being like, you're moving in this way that's so radically different. Like, what is it about you? Because you're not like other people. So to me, it never felt like a punch in the gut. It was more like this awareness that, like, yes, I am really different from other people. And I'm here to help other people like embody that. Well, weird etymologically, if you look from in old German, it translates to mean destiny, which is wild. Isn't that fucking
mm,
wild? I'm sorry
that
if you
is
you can
great.
edit out my cursing, but
Please, please.
it's like fucking wild to think about, right? These things that we like, you and me and the people in the audience who undoubtedly have a million stories that we could tell about times when we experienced like profound, intuition and wisdom and all of these things, and we're told that that's like so different and other and needs to be shifted, and we have to find ways to fall into society's model. And it's like, what if, like, to me, you take that one step further beyond the idea. To me, me, destiny is really like our gifts, our soul, our truth. Like, not that we have to have a single way of navigating through that, like, oh, that's that person's destiny, like that they have to like live this one set model, but more so that like we're cultivating the whispers of our own heart, our own sacred song, and like reconnecting back to the divine wisdom, so that whatever it is that we're good at, it doesn't matter what, you don't have to do things one way, but that you're actively contributing more so than ever to this like sense of recalibration and restoration of this connection that we have to creator and the truth. So that's like a big one. Um, Energetic support, right? It sounds so simple, and I know the people in the audience know this, but it's really time to like restore our frequency. Like, I feel like to me, the future, my modality is called future medicine. I think that there's this way where we're really being called to like reconnect. Like, I call it future medicine, but in a lot of ways I could also call it ancient medicine.
Mm.
This like divine truth, and so that feels really important to me. The creativity, the moving differently, and really embodying, our full truth, and restoring our soul. I think that one of the things I do with people is that I go through a process I call a celestial soul retrieval, and that feels so important because, again, it's like part of this process of reconnecting to the ultimate truth of who we are, so that we're not weighed down by or affected by the misinformation,
Mhm.
the frequencies that are not working for us. And to me, those feel, and frankly, also just like having fun. I know that seems so simple, but like, it's brutal down here, right? Like, there's so much happening on earth. It's beautiful, there are things that are incredible, but like finding ways to just like restore joy in your life. Like, it can be small, right? It doesn't need to be like, it can be massive, it can be like hugely transformative, but it can also be like small things that you're doing every day to just shift things over time, because that stuff builds. And I feel like that also, it's like making really big moves is a call this year, but also doing things steadily, consistently over time, so that you're actually embodying the things that you're saying, because we can have all sorts of, ideas and a vision for ourselves. But sometimes it can be hard, as we all know, to like actually start to take the steps forward. And I think the small actions now over time have the capacity, because of the energy, to really to build in ways that are exponential, that don't even make sense. As
Mhm.
you know, if we start to move differently, as it were, over the course of this year, and then like looking back on it, right, with hindsight, as we move into 2026, I think we're going to see that the people who are really walking the talk are going to be the ones who continue to really have a level of grace, success, prosperity, to the tune of your beautiful podcast, right? Like, the people who are really living this ancient sacred truth, are we're going to be the ones who are the leaders, the role models, as it were.
Mhm. I love this. This is really aligned with what I've been shown in relation to helping, I help people break through their money ceilings. And for me, that's about having a bigger impact ultimately. And we're going to be called into that deeper alignment, as you say, of who we truly are. And that requires more courage, bolder actions, so that we can make that impact that we're all here on this planet to do. Our souls have come down with that intention. Um, as we're contemplating this and thinking about the themes for 2025, what guidance would you share with people who are feeling that inner call to expand and make that bigger impact?
I think just allowing yourself to lean into things that feel uncomfortable. I think when you think about, you know, society, culture, which is the word culture itself is a real not to to crack, because it literally has the word cult in it, right? There are these
Mm.
ways where we're taught from all angles. And this is not, there's obviously also a lot of wisdom and previous generations. I'm not dismissing any of that. But I think when you look at, the way that we've all been told, there is like a set point, a goal. We need to have reached this milestone by this age, and this milestone by this age. age. And I remember graduating from college and being like, none of this makes any sense. Like, I don't, not that I understood that I was powerful, but like the planet itself is just clearly operating in this way that's like not tending to our needs and our love and our vision and our joy. And I feel like to just give yourself permission to feel a little uncomfortable in this process of like of really like powerfully reclaiming your sovereignty and your voice, because you're going to have moments where you're like, especially for people who have met the markers for success, right? That it can almost be more uncomfortable, I think, for people who have amassed a lot of 3D success, as it were, to say, oh, now I want something bigger, I want something different. And it can feel so uncomfortable, right? To have like your friends and your family to, start to, because people question it when you say in whatever words you choose, like, oh, this is the year I'm cultivating my spiritual gifts. I'm breaking my money ceiling. Like most people are going to give you side eye and be like, what on earth are you talking about? So I think like just giving yourself room to say, this journey of self discovery is going to ruffle some feathers. And that's also okay because, as like a connection to that, I also feel like one of the big calls that we're all experiencing now is to make room for multiple truths to be happening at one time. And for other people, right, if you're being called to like live your own most dynamic sacred singular truth, fly your freak flag, as it were, and like be yourself, then extending that grace to other people is also so important. And it means, right, that people are going to have different opinions than you. They're not going to, and we're seeing it so much right now on a global scale. There's this call to like blame. It's always been true, but this notion that like blaming and judging the opposite, like it's like there's a winner and a loser, there's a
Mm.
side. Oh, there's always a side. And it's like that is just the energy of war from my perspective that they've woven into everything. What if the problem is not the person on the other side, that it's like actually a systemic issue, and that the way through it is for each of us to be like, I'm a creator being, and this is not the world that I vision. Like, I don't want this for myself. I want a planet where the financial system is healed and it benefits every heart and hand, whatever that means for people, right? That like justice has been restored, that we're living where our energy is for us and for our capacity to create and live in joy. And that means that like we have to really, put down our arms, as it were, and make room to allow other people to also move in the way that works for them without having it be like a massive problem.
Yes, yes. It comes to us reclaiming our sovereignty for everybody and being able to, and I know you talk about reclaiming sovereignty, and I wanted to highlight that because it deeply resonates with conversations that I have with our leaders, and being able for people to take full ownership of their energy, to take full energetic responsibility, to take responsibility for the wealth that they're creating, for the impact that they're making. And you've touched on so many aspects that can come in to impact people being able to be fully sovereign. I would love to unpack this a bit more about your perceptions on sovereignty, and it's why it's so important for leaders who are expanding their consciousness, intending on expanding their prosperity.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. There is the idea to me of like reclaiming our sovereignty, right? It's this like multi-tiered, multi-dimensional process of really retuning your energy field so that the complex chorus of misinformation and ancestral trauma, and there's so much that we carry in from past lives and from the collective and from our family, that we're carrying a lot of energetic heaviness that in so many ways, and I know you can like see this in people's fields too, but when I tune into so many people's fields, there's so much happening in people's energy field that's literally not even theirs, that was like never theirs, is not theirs. And I think really, to me, part of like the radical act of reclaiming our sovereignty is to shed those things from our field, because they affect our physical health, they affect our
Mhm.
capacity to create wealth and success, and to really like live in a way that works for us. And you said a couple of things that I really loved about like the idea, right, of like people creating success as a way to facilitate impact. And I think that that just feels so like urgently needed now, right? Like the sort of like old, it's a simple way, but like the capitalist model, right? Of like hoarding money and hoarding resources, and really like creating impact, creating like a lot of wealth, but to what end? Like to me, this idea of having a small concentration of people who are hoarding all their resources has clearly not allowed for the world to prosper or thrive in a real way from my perspective. But at the same time, people of good hearts and minds, we need money. We need money to be able to articulate our vision. Like I've always, from the time I was little, wanted to be a philanthropist. And I'm like laughing because, like who when they're little has that vision, but like this weirdo did. And I've always wanted to have a found, and I've been like working on it for years. I'm sure that at some point it'll become true, but I have wanted for years to ultimately someday have a foundation that facilitates joy grants around the world, big and small. And there's just so much, I feel like we have so much room to really change things if we are doing this work of reclaiming our own sovereignty. Because at the end of the day, yes, we want to make impact, we want to change things. And it's like the way that we start that process to me is by really beautifully reclaiming our own truth so that we are energized and powerful and like living our own vision. And then we can go out and have this incredible impact. And to me, I have a certification program in my modality, and I recorded a roundtable with some of the graduates last week, and it was so cool because one of the people is a product designer, and she's not someone who you would necessarily imagine to be, right, a spiritual entrepreneur. Through the process of going through my certification program and working with me that whole year, she doubled her sales from the year previously. And she was saying, as part of this, I think like there are a lot, I would really encourage people who don't even fancy themselves to be a spiritual entrepreneur to take the leap and do this work, because you are always talking about how every field, every system, everything needs that energy, that light of our divine spark and our creative truth. And she was like, I am such a perfect example of that, right? Like you would never know on the surface that this work that I'm doing is really like energized by the divine spark. But at the end of the day, like here I am, the results are here. And to me, that's like such a big part of our journey of restoring sovereignty, is realizing that at the end of the day, whether we, however we perceive ourselves, that all of this work is spiritual.
Appeared from the screen.
You have become a metaphysical mystery, Louise.
Right.
Your spirit is so big you can't even be contained by
You blew me away with what you were saying, and I vanished. Yes, I love everything that you're saying. I think so much here for us all as leaders to be able to start to think about, okay, so how can we continue to, what is mine to do on this journey of making a bigger impact? And it's absolutely key, as you say, around that for any leader, to be focusing on the energetics and how you can, it's energy first and strategy second, I always say.
Yeah.
And as we contemplate that, I would love, just before we start to wrap up, if you have some suggestions or tips, for someone who is wanting to expand deepen their consciousness and expand their prosperity, what would be like one daily practice that you'd recommend that they could, start to bring in to their practice?
I feel like spending some time every day, and this can just be like a small thing in the morning, something you do at night, but really like sitting in that energy of I'm restoring my own creative vision, right? Like there's this power, I think, behind affirmations and like holding a vision for ourselves and really like sitting in that energy, whether it's like I mentioned, even just for a few minutes with your eyes closed. Like the first thing I do when I wake up in the morning is clear my field of anything I've taken on, that is not authentically mine. And then I sit in that energy of I'm restoring my own creative vision, I'm restoring my own creative sight. Every single thing that I do moves within for my highest favor. And really like sitting in that narrative and that energy and leaning into what is it about me, right? Like my authentic voice. What is it that I'm going to do today to create that impact, to share that wisdom? Some days it looks like, right, inspired action, taking steps, like reaching out to my list, sharing things with the world. And some days for me it means saying, okay, today I'm going to really like sit, my body needs to rest, I'm going to sit in contemplation, I'm going to give myself a chance to just like chill out. And really like listening, I think, to our bodies as part of this process feels also like a massive power move as we move through this journey of, reclaiming the sacred on earth and our own sovereignty.
I love that morning, how you start your morning. I think it's such an important way how we set ourselves up for the day. And being able to energy hygiene is everything, because we can pick up so much that we've got
Yeah.
no idea what we've been picking up, and projections that have been put onto us, and hooks and cords and all the things. So yes,
Yeah.
clearing what is not ours before we get started is so important. As we're kind of beginning to wrap up, I would love to know what's lighting you up in your work right now. How can people come and find you? Tell us all the things.
I am all it's always so fun to see like who finds me through these interviews, these exchanges of wisdom. People can find me. My website is we'reheretoremember.com. I am on Instagram at C Witchery, and I have a bunch of things I'm super excited about. My certification program starts up again in April, but if anyone is like listening to this and wants to be part of that, I recommend reaching out sooner or later, because as part of the joy and the experience of being in my program, for the certification, I give everyone also access to all of the group programming that I run during the course of the year, because I think it's like an important part of that process, right? Because it's as much about helping people understand how to share their own wisdom with the world as it is about going through a profound personal restoration, right? Deep healing, personal like reclamation of sovereignty. So I, always encourage people to sign up sooner than later so that they can reap the full fruitfulness of the experience. And I have a monthly group healing that I run. The next one I think is on February 20th, but I you guys have a link. Anyone who registers for my newsletter gets access to a free month. So I would love to have anyone, who's excited by this or wants to, learn more about my process and my method, which are very uniquely my own. One thing that has been true since I started this is people are like, if you go and you read the, client testimonials and things, so many people are like, I've never experienced anything like what, this beautiful, mystical, cosmic witch is doing. So I know I'm onto something, and it's always so beautiful to like hear people. But yes, I would love to have anyone listening join us for a complimentary month of Future Medicine Monthly. Soul retrievals are, a big passion that I have. You can book one of those too. So I would just love to have people reach out and find me and really start to like, help give me a chance to guide what I call people refer to like guiding people out of the matrix and home to themselves. So,
Oh, I
yeah.
love it. Thank you so much, Andrea. And that's a
Thank you.
hugely generous gift for the listeners as well. So I truly appreciate you.
Yeah. Thank you, Louisa, for having me.
Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody who's been listening. We hope that this has served. Please do go and check out Andrea. Come and find us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, all the places, wherever you like to hang out. Let us know how this episode resonated for you. And please do share it with anyone that you feel that they would benefit from it. And until next time, we'll see you very, very soon. Lots of love.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Infinite Prosperity Podcast. I hope it's left you feeling inspired, expanded, empowered to embody your next level of success. And I would love to invite you to join me for the Energetic Edge. This is my free energetics experience for entrepreneurs and leaders who are ready to master the frequency of their next level. You'll discover how to identify and shift the subtle energetic blocks interfering with your capacity for more income, impact, and expansion. You can join us at louisahavers.com/energetics or via the link in the show notes. And I'll see you there. Here's to your next level, and I'll see you in the next episode.